It's easy to think that loneliness means being alone, but it doesn't. And being surrounded by people doesn't mean you're connected. Two people can walk through the same world, one in silence, the other in noise and still. Only one of them truly hears themselves. One is the lonely, the other the popular. But this isn't a story about who has more followers. It's about who has more freedom. Because popularity is often just loneliness in disguise, painted with smiles and filters, wrapped in validation, but empty inside. The lonely lives without applause, the popular lives for it. The lonely sits with their thoughts, the popular runs from them. The lonely wrestles with silence until it becomes peace. The popular drowns in noise until silence becomes unbearable. The difference isn't who's surrounded by people, it's who's connected to themselves. The lonely learns to be their own company. The popular fears being alone with their own mind. Because silence reveals the truth, and truth isn't always pretty. So they hide behind conversations, notifications, and endless motion. The lonely feels invisible. The popular feels exposed. Both ache, but in opposite ways. The lonely wants to be seen. The popular wants to disappear. It's a strange paradox how both crave what the other escapes from. The lonely says, if only people noticed me. The popular whispers, if only people knew the real me. Because popularity demands performance. Every smile rehearsed, every post polished, every emotion filtered. The lonely has no audience, so they stop performing, and in that quiet they start becoming real. Loneliness is heavy, yes, but authenticity is born in its weight. Because when no one's watching, you stop pretending. You stop needing approval. You begin to meet yourself, raw, uncertain, human. The popular rarely gets that chance. They live in a hall of mirrors, reflections of how others see them, but never their true face. Every compliment becomes currency, every like a microdose of worth. Until they forget how to exist without it, they start chasing connection the way a drowning man chases air, desperate, frantic, never full. Because no amount of attention can fill the space where self-acceptance should be. The lonely learns that attention and connection aren't the same thing. Attention feeds the ego. Connection feeds the soul. The popular collects people. The lonely collects moments of truth. When the popular speaks, the world listens. When the lonely speaks, the world ignores. But here's the twist. The lonely listens to the world. The popular only listens to themselves. And that's why the lonely grows quietly, slowly, while the popular repeats the same story, louder every year. Because popularity traps you in identity. You become what people expect, and expectations are cages that look like crowns. The lonely, though unseen, remains free. Free to change, to evolve, to outgrow old versions of themselves. The popular can't afford to change because their worth is built on being recognized. Not for who they are, but for who they were. The lonely moves through life like a wanderer, the popular like an actor. Both tired but for different reasons. The lonely is tired of being unseen. The popular is tired of pretending. The lonely seeks understanding. The popular seeks approval. And that small difference shapes everything. Because when you seek understanding, you grow closer to truth. But when you seek approval, you grow further from yourself. The lonely feels the sting of isolation, but in time, that sting becomes strength. They learn to sit with discomfort, to befriend it, to turn emptiness into clarity. The popular fills that same emptiness with noise, endless interaction, surface-level laughter, constant validation. But the moment the noise stops, the silence screams. And in that silence, they realize how fragile their happiness is, how dependent it's become on others. The lonely learns self-sufficiency. The popular learns performance. The lonely's world is small but deep. The popular's world is wide but shallow. The lonely measures life in meaning. The popular measures it in moments of being seen. But one day, the spotlight fades, the crowd moves on, and the question echoes, who are you when no one's watching? The lonely already knows. The popular must find out from zero. Loneliness, for all its pain, is a teacher. It strips away illusion. It asks you, what remains when nothing external validates you? And what remains is the truth. The lonely builds from that truth quietly, piece by piece. They create instead of impressing. They feel instead of performing. They listen instead of shouting. And slowly others start to feel it, that quiet strength. Because real connection vibrates on a different frequency. It's not loud, it's not glamorous, it's real. The popular lives in constant comparison. Who's watching me? Who's winning more? Who's fading faster? Their joy depends on the echo of attention, but echoes always fade. The lonely finds peace not in applause, but in alignment. They don't need to be everywhere, they need to be present, because presence fills what popularity cannot. When you're truly present, you don't chase attention. You attract authenticity. The lonely learns patience. The popular learns pressure. The lonely creates space. The popular fills it. And yet they're not enemies. They're two sides of the same human longing to matter. One tries to matter to everyone, the other tries to matter to themselves. But only one path leads to peace. Because peace doesn't come from being loved by many. It comes from not needing to be. The lonely learns that solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. The place where identity is built in silence, so it can survive the noise. The popular hasn't learned that yet. Their identity depends on attention, and when that attention fades, so does their sense of self. But solitude gives birth to strength, because once you've made peace with being unseen, no one can control you again. You don't bend for approval. You don't chase validation. You don't perform to be loved. You simply are. And that's power. The popular craves eyes on them. The lonely craves honesty within them. And when they finally meet, when the popular burns out and the lonely blossoms, they realize something profound. Popularity was never the opposite of loneliness. It was a mask for it. Because no number of followers can fill the space that only self-acceptance can occupy. Loneliness hurts, yes, but it's not your enemy. It's your mirror. It reflects everything you've ignored, and when you stop running from it, you start understanding yourself. The popular seeks connection outside. The lonely discovers it inside. One looks outward to feel whole. The other looks inward to heal. And when they finally meet in balance, when solitude meets authenticity, you become something rare. A person who can be alone without feeling empty, and surrounded without feeling lost. That's the real victory, because in the end it's not about being seen, it's about being known. And that starts with knowing yourself. So the question isn't, do people notice you? The question is, do you notice yourself? Because when you do, loneliness transforms. It stops being silence and starts being space. Space to think, to feel, to grow. And maybe that's the quiet secret the popular never learns. That true connection doesn't start with others. It starts with you. So don't fear loneliness. Don't worship popularity. Both are temporary, but self-awareness, that's eternal. Because the moment you stop chasing validation and start living in truth, you realize you were never lonely. You were just waiting to meet yourself.